Rebuilding my relationship with my daughter, 13. So, to cut a long tale short, I had an affair. My daughter was the one who found me with the other guy in the act. It had been the worst day of our life. I'm not going to justify the affair because I know it was wrong. My daughter had always been a daddy's girl, and she quickly informed her father of what she had seen. That was more than a year ago. I moved out for a bit, and my spouse and I decided to give it a go. I simply want to see my family again. I really regret inflicting such pain on them both. My husband is making an effort. Some days he can hardly hold his hatred for me, while other days he wants to make it work and tries to forgive me. It's a thrill ride. My daughter, on the other hand, is considerably more reliable. She despises me. For the last year, every second of every day. I've had some excellent days with my spouse, but none with her. When I moved out, she wouldn't talk to me at all. She wouldn't return my calls or messages. She refused to go anywhere with me, and now that I've moved back in, she won't speak to me except to yell at me that she hates me, that I wrecked her life, that I'm a dully, and so on. If my husband and I spend any time alone together, she interrupts and demands his attention. If we sit on the couch next to each other, she will push herself in between us and cling to her father. She is constantly telling him that he should divorce me, that she will love with him, that they don't need me, and if we try to go out together, she will call him crying and begging him to come home. She is the light of his life. So every time she does anything like this, he runs to her. We've attempted family counseling, but we're not making any headway. She refuses to engage, and he's not even sure he can forgive me. It was all too much the other day, and I burst into tears in front of her, begging her to forgive me. She yelled at me, telling me she despised me, that she was delighted I was in pain, that she wanted me to suffer, that she would never forgive me, that I had wrecked her life, and that she hoped I would die. She is furious. She despises me more than her father. I understand I deceived her as well. I recognize I was selfish, and I know I'm a bad guy. I don't think life is worth living after betraying the two people I care about the most in the world and ruining all of our lives. Sometimes I believe we'd be better off if I simply died. Perhaps she is correct. I'm not sure I deserve to be her mother anymore, and I certainly don't deserve my husband. Is she ever going to forgive me? And if you're going to tell me what a horrible person I am for cheating, believe me, I already know, and nothing anybody can say to me will make it any worse than what I've already heard. Update today, I spoke to my spouse about implementing some of the modifications mentioned in this article. It went swimmingly. He agrees that we must do something different. We are going to substitute individual therapy for family counseling for her. I offered to discontinue my IC so he could process the trauma, but he stated he'd rather I continued in IC and figured out why I cheated and developed stronger coping strategies. He stated he'd go when he was satisfied I dealt with it appropriately. We went out as a family today. It was almost typical. He appeared content, and she wasn't yelling at me, so that's something. I got home and sobbed. We were nearly back to being a regular family. Almost. Story 2. Girlfriend, female 30, and I, male 33. Aren't sure how to compromise on drinking alcohol. Hello there, Reddit. Girlfriend, F30, and I, M33, are writing this jointly to gain feedback on how we should deal with the current problem. Background information. I was up in a Christian home that did not consume alcohol, and I have not done so for the bulk of my life. I left that faith about 5 years ago and have gradually started reevaluating many of my ideas and attitudes on a variety of things, including alcohol. I think I have a reasonably balanced opinion of it now. It isn't intrinsically evil when taken in moderation. People may do anything they want, and I don't mind if they become blackout drunk as long as they don't injure anybody. Girlfriend came from a dysfunctional household where her father misused alcohol, and as a result, is family. As a result, she is adamantly opposed to alcohol. I believe she is perfectly right in feeling this way. She has the right to select who and what she surrounds herself with. My present stance. Having stated that, I don't feel compelled to do so. For me, 1 or 2 beers with friends a few times a month is about as much as I'd want to do. It's not even enough to get drunk. It's simply something pleasant to do with pals every now and again. Another concept that is essential to me in this context is the concept of agency. After abandoning that specific faith, I have a great desire to feel as though I have the freedom to make my own decisions. Being informed that something is not permitted when it does not endanger anybody does not feel like something I desire. The issue, even after I became non-religious, drinking alcohol was not a big part of my life. At most, I have a glass or two with pals once every several months. I met my girlfriend on a dating website. I mentioned doesn't drink as a characteristic on my profile. I get how this may be deceiving, but in my defense, I was extremely clear with her about my beliefs on alcohol very early on and informed her that I had drunk alcohol on occasion up to this time. However, once she expressed to me that she does not want to be in a relationship with someone who drinks alcohol, I decided to quit drinking entirely, since it was an unusual event anyhow. Let's fast forward a year. I've been thinking about several things in my life recently, and I realized that I don't like the notion of not being able to drink with friends on sometimes. I completely appreciate her hesitation on the subject, and I don't want to minimize her worries, but I also believe that I am one of the most responsible individuals I know when it comes to drinking. I have no intention of getting drunk or even bringing alcohol into the house. I simply want to be allowed to drink with my pals on occasion. I discussed it with her, and she is opposed to the concept. She claims she particularly looked at that aspect of someone's profile before replying, and that if I had mentioned I drank alcohol, she would not have replied at all. Because it is that important to me. Hello, this is my girlfriend. We don't want to split up because of this, and we'd really want to find some type of solution or way of thinking about it to help us through it. Any suggestions would be much appreciated. Thanks! Story 3. I 29 female am unsure if it is time to leave BF 34 male after 5 years. Nothing is terribly wrong. I've been with my boyfriend 34M for 5 years and I'm worried that it's not going anywhere. We began dating while I was in college, and things were fantastic at first, as they still are. We had huge chats about what we wanted and appeared to be on the same page. For me, the most important factors are that I want to be married, that I want to be a homeowner, and that I do not want children. We had a heated discussion about those 3 goods, and he acknowledged that he too desired them. 1 year into our relationship, it comes time for me to graduate from college, and we once again establish that we are on the same page. I moved in with him after looking for work in his state since he was many hours away. We went to look for engagement rings around 3 months after we moved, and I am overjoyed. This is how I imagine my and our lives to be. After another 4 years, nothing has changed. We cohabitate, each of us has a solid career, and our financial independence, despite the difficulties of cohabitation, is fantastic. There is nothing obviously wrong with the relationship, except that I still want everything I wanted when I was 23. I brought it up many times over the years, and discussions about the future always seem to end in conflicts. I want to marry, but it's not crucial right now. Can't I simply be happy and stop casting a shadow over every occasion by yearning for a ring? The trouble is, I don't feel like I do. I feel like he does, and I'm not sure why. I've inquired as to what is taking so long. I have no debt, excellent job prospects, and we are both adamant about avoiding having children. He becomes really protective. I entered therapy because I believed I wasn't conveying my needs effectively, but my therapist informed me that I am a good communicator and obviously in touch with myself. I'd previously done therapy to work on myself in my early 20s. She offered couples counseling, which I mentioned to him, and he grew enraged and refused. Now I feel like I've simply shrunk myself to avoid upsetting him. I don't want to be made to feel bad for wanting to make plans for the future. Is this too much to ask? How do you proceed when your spouse is terrified of the future? I really want this to succeed, but I'm beginning to get the impression that we're no longer on the same page. In fact, I get the impression that he has abandoned his sales entirely and is content to remain the same, never changing or growing. Is this an indication that it's time to go? My father cheated on my mother. I didn't speak to him for a few years, then sent him a terrible letter in which I expressed my thoughts, forgave him, and moved on. My brother quit communicating to my father and barely sees him a handful of times a year. It's been 17 years. I believe my brother's response is mostly due to my father's feeling sorry for himself and his decision to quit seeking a relationship. As a result, my brother felt unloved. I would argue that she may feel she hates you, and she may even despise you, but she will not vanish. It will always be your responsibility to seek her. And I believe you have a strong possibility of reconciliation if you do. That's a disaster on every level. I can't image parenting through this while still attempting to restore relationships and develop trust. I know you mentioned trying family counseling and how that didn't work. But what about solo treatment? I'm not sure if you've gone down that path, but having a personalized plan and a secure place to discuss would be more useful for now. I wish you the best of luck as you rebuild your family. Read. I believe your daughter would benefit much from individual counseling. She needs a safe environment in which to process her thoughts about this. I'm the only patient in individual treatment. My spouse and I are going to couples therapy to get through what I've done to us. Why isn't she seeing a therapist one-on-one? We enrolled her in family counseling. That seemed like a good idea to us. We can't afford to keep all of this treatment continuing, so we need to decide which one to discontinue if we send her to individual therapy. We've already had 3 counseling sessions. One for myself, one for my spouse and I, and one for the whole family. My husband, by all rights, should be in treatment as well, but we just cannot afford 5 counseling sessions. We're already overburdened beyond what our insurance will cover. Now look at some comments. My father cheated on my mother. I didn't speak to him for a few years, then sent him a terrible letter in which I expressed my thoughts, forgave him, and moved on. My brother quit communicating to my father and barely sees him a handful of times a year. It's been 17 years. I believe my brother's response is mostly due to my father's feeling sorry for himself and his decision to quit seeking a relationship. As a result, my brother felt unloved. I would argue that she may feel she hates you, and she may even despise you, but she will not vanish. It will always be your responsibility to seek her. And I believe you have a strong possibility of reconciliation if you do. That's a disaster on every level. I can't image parenting through this while still attempting to restore relationships and develop trust. I know you mentioned trying family counseling and how that didn't work. But what about solo treatment? I'm not sure if you've gone down that path, but having a personalized plan and a secure place to discuss would be more useful for now. I wish you the best of luck as you rebuild your family. Read. I believe your daughter would benefit much from individual counseling. She needs a safe environment in which to process her thoughts about this. I'm the only patient in individual treatment. My spouse and I are going to couples therapy to get through what I've done to us. Why isn't she seeing a therapist one-on-one? We enrolled her in family counseling. That seemed like a good idea to us. We can't afford to keep all of this treatment continuing, so we need to decide which one to discontinue if we send her to individual therapy. We've already had 3 counseling sessions. One for myself, one for my spouse and I, and one for the whole family. My husband, by all rights, should be in treatment as well, but we just cannot afford 5 counseling sessions. We're already overburdened beyond what our insurance will cover.